hopefully the computer doesn't try and reboot tonight like it did last night.
During the meeting?
During the meeting, that's what kicked us off the
Yeah.
live stream, so.
Probably just so much traffic watching it. My bandwidth
Couldn't handle the bandwidth anymore. Right, now I gotta check out how many views he had.
Do I just sign my name on the ones that say Nikki Wagner? Okay.
I think we're gonna have to. I think you were the one that was here for him anyway. So.
Yep.
Yeah, that was not the case last night.
No?
It was weird, I apologize.
surprising. Pretty.
17, 16, 8, 37 for the first one, so.
I did see there was some concrete
Mhm.
poured up there.
I don't see a light bulb installed.
The light bulb, that happened today.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Brian's supposed to do that first.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that new mic is doing anything different.
You don't say.
I don't know if it's the mic or just the system.
It's better. Camera view is better now. We messed with that a little bit, but the mic is,
It's better.
it's better, but not by much.
You don't have to have your volume cranked to 100. As I did last night watching it.
Turn it up as far as you can go. If you have headphones on, then
That's
it works.
better? I don't know that I've ever listened to one of the meetings with headphones.
'Cause then there's like
No,
no other sound.
Yeah.
No distractions.
Let's call her to order. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we will skip visitors to be heard, no one here. On to the minutes from the November 30th meeting. Did anyone look through them and see any problems?
Motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
On to Kyle.
Construction update. Reporting 155 new permits since January 1st. The ones that were added since last meeting include a remodel, and 4 siding, roofing, window projects, and then 1 fencing project was added. Total permit values were up November 2022 to 2023, with commercial at 709,000, and then residential is 1.3 million. As for the code enforcement update, since our last P&Z meeting, I noted 6 parking on unimproved surfaces, 2 for missing house ID, and then 1 for potentially inoperable vehicle. questions?
Kyle, how many parking on unapproved surfaces letters have we written this year?
This year, I think it was 50, 52 letters.
Do you remember how many dollars of fines we've generated on that?
I think 6 fines were issued at $600.
$100 each,
Mhm.
so $600 in fines.
So it's mostly just letters or notices, it's, has to be probably a reoccurring issue for it to actually be a fine, I mean.
Yeah, typically once they got fined, they ignored my letters, usually. I try to, I put my email and phone number in all my letters to have them reach out, but sometimes they don't.
Our practice is to work with folks to get voluntary compliance, not, the goal is not to fine anybody. But we always have to put the full effect of the ordinance in every letter, so. In most cases, folks will contact us, we'll find a plan, we're working with one this week that give us a plan, we'll figure it out, and go from there, so.
Yeah, and all my letters get 2 weeks. You get 2 weeks to reach out to me. Grass letters, obviously, in the summertime is usually a week, 5 days, just because of how fast grass grows.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you, Kyle. On to old business, ordinance 644, short-term rentals.
So Commissioners, this is a amended version of the last proposed draft ordinance. Changes you requested were incorporated into this draft. It's in front of your consideration for tonight, and it has been submitted to the city attorney for review. With, I don't believe there are any concerns noted. So the current ordinance would require a conditional use permit for short-term rentals, proof of sales tax license required, no signs permitted, and required to comply with the city's IPMC, as well as the other standards that are listed there.
I think it looks good. Simple.
So if this is what you would like to see made into effect in our ordinances, I would recommend a motion to send this to the city council for their review.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, ordinance 646, in-home daycare requirements.
Commissioners, this is a draft ordinance that you requested regarding conditional use permits for in-home daycares. Discussed this at length at the November commission meeting, and asked them to be drafted based on any building code language that we have. Random inspection required annually. In your package, you'll find the draft ordinance reference to the International Residential Code. There's an appendix that references in-home daycares, and a draft inspection checklist that Kyle put together at your request. So I'll have, if you have any questions about the checklist, I'll have Kyle answer that. But I think he'll probably answer the rest of it. The checklist itself was a bit tricky because it has to be something that, there's a lot we could put in there. We went back and forth a couple of times, I think, on what does the ordinance actually give us the authority to inspect? Right, we can inspect a lot of things, but it can't, if you look at the Department of Health or DSS, I think it's DSS, their checklist, the things that are on that checklist are on there because that's what the state's administrative rules are set up to follow. So whatever our checklist has to be, we have to have the authority to enforce whatever is in there. Unless we're simply making some sort of recommendation. It's nothing we can.
And I used DSS's checklist. I
Mhm.
think they had like 80-some
There's a lot.
items on there, and so I just cut out the ones that I didn't think applied or we could really enforce.
So as far as when you're doing these inspections, if somebody doesn't comply, is that just a code violation like the parking and, I mean, what is the plan for that?
I would say it's probably more of a, they get a letter or something, you know, something that says what the violation is, and they have so long to come to compliance, or they lose their conditional use permit. Wouldn't necessarily, I don't think it needs to have a fine or anything tied to it.
So every zoning violation does have the force of a fine.
Does it?
A $500 a day fine. That's pretty standard. I don't know that any town has anything different than that. I can't think of a single case where we've actually had forced someone to pay that fine outside of a court case. You know, typically what would happen on a code or zoning violation is we give them the notice, give them time to comply, and then re-inspect, right? That's our process. And you know, if there's a blatant disregard of the rules, or they say, well, I don't like that rule, I'm not gonna come to compliance, then yes, you could vote to revoke the conditional use permit.
Yeah, I suppose that could be something you can, give them a certain amount of time to comply, and then either do what we use with the rest of the ordinances, start the finding process, or you can have it, so you bring up that they get their conditional use permit revoked. Just however you wanna do it.
Is this something parents could request, like seeing proof that you're in compliance, or that
That a daycare has been inspected.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't,
See, is this public record because it's a conditional use permit?
yes. Most records we maintain are public records, so, I mean, even with code enforcement cases, I'm not sure how you handle those, but we try and keep them confidential as we can if they come from a complaint, but, you know, I'd say 9 times out of 10 it's coming from us. So, if somebody wants to request they're looking to put their kid in one of these in-home daycares and they want to see the checklist, I just have them fill out the regular request and pay the 50-cent fee or whatever it is for the paper and we'll provide it, so.
So for like, if a new daycare would be required to have a checklist done before a conditional use permit, or is this just a checklist for when an inspection is completed at randomly annually?
I'd say just for the annual inspection.
Okay, it wouldn't be required for them to get the conditional use permit, or is that one of the things that we're adopting here is that this is required?
Well, they've gotta be in compliance with the IRC Appendix A, under the ordinance, so maybe an initial inspection prior to the public hearing, and then annually thereafter, I think would make sense. You couldn't,
I'd almost think an inspection has to be done before
Yeah.
issuance of the.
you would have to, because otherwise you can't, we couldn't recommend approval if they're not meeting the IRC.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what that checklist is meant to go against.
Right.
Yeah. So this checklist should probably be sent out with the conditional use permit
Applications.
letters.
Yeah, the form, yeah. But it's for Kyle to fill out, not for the homeowner to fill out, correct?
Oh,
Or is it like something they can look at, make sure they're in compliance,
Yeah.
and Kyle would look at?
Be a good guide for them,
Yeah, right, yeah.
I think, looking at that checklist too, I mean, anybody that's interested in running an in-home daycare,
Pretty common sense.
you would sure think so.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty
You know.
standard.
Yeah, it's pretty easy stuff.
Yep.
from the back.
Yeah.
Do we need to add any verbiage about the initial inspection before consideration, or is this ordinance okay without that?
I'm fine with it, no.
Okay. Then I make a motion that we move forward with recommendation? Is that where we're at? After legal-
Recommend approval to the city council, so, yeah.
Okay,
That'll work.
make a motion, we recommend to the city council for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Oh, I probably should have. Did anybody, I never had any time to look into carbon pipelines, but did anybody look into carbon pipelines?
I attended,
Is this something we
well, I didn't attend the meetings, but I watched most of the meetings. I attended, I think, 2 of them, so.
For what?
Lincoln County,
I see.
and I can provide a report on what they're recommending to the county commission, at the next meeting if you want.
Is it getting pushed down closer to Lennox or?
Well, there's no official map, that's part of the challenge,
Yeah.
you know, until something goes to the PUC, there's really not an official map.
They're
But
just using what was originally.
we
posted
know that
by-
we know that there'll be a main trunk line northeast of town somewhere. And at some point, there's going to be, something has to go to Chancellor to vote it, so. The question would be, well, where's that line and what size is that exposed?
Yeah.
But, I've stayed in pretty close contact with a few members of that, task force and can provide some information at the next meeting. I don't think it's going to be in front of the commission quite yet. I think it's gotta go to, Lincoln County Planning Commission first and then to their full commission, so.
So the only way that, like, I know we have jurisdiction for different, like, is it building permits or like plating or
Platinum
zoning?
jurisdiction.
Like around, I mean, whatever, within 3 miles of
Yep.
town, I think.
Yep.
And so, what's our jurisdiction with regards to, let's say, carbon pipelines? I mean, is it just
No.
town, or is it Lincoln County, is everything outside the like? city?
Everything outside of, so our planning jurisdiction, excuse me, with the new comprehensive plan, extends 3 miles outside of our municipal boundary. Excuse me. That means the only thing we can control in that area is the subdivision of land, essentially.
Mhm.
When it comes to the zoning regulations, building permits, all that goes to Lincoln County yet, even if it's just 100 feet outside of our municipal boundary.
Okay.
So, this commission, you know, if they wanted to have an ordinance regulating pipelines of some sort, you know, the argument would be that you would have the authority to do so only inside of municipal boundaries. There are ample logical arguments on both sides of that coin as to whether we actually have that authority or not. So I'd
The authority
be
within
hesitant
town or outside of town?
to regulate pipelines at all. So I'd be hesitant to recommend that you do so without a lot of legal research by the city attorney. So that's part of the challenge that's happening, you know, if you look at North Dakota, that's what the court challenges are on right now. And I would fully expect there to be a court challenge here as well as, well, Moody, Brown County's had a couple of challenges to that already, so. There's good arguments on both sides of that coin, I don't know which one's right.
So it's really not worth us spending any time on it right now.
I think, I'll say this, at the county commission, or the county task force meeting, the recommendation to the county commission was that there'd be a 2-mile setback from all municipalities. So that's the recommendation they're sending to the county commission. I think there needs to be clarity around whether we are allowed to violate that setback or not. if it has to be placed at least 2 miles from the municipal boundary, is the city allowed to grow in that direction or not? That's one of the questions that we need clarification on, so. But I'd hesitate to get too far into this without having it as an agenda item, so.
Right, yeah. It's something that'd be good to figure out what authority we even do have. And I'm sure that'll work itself out over time, but I'd rather be prepared and maybe ahead of it than reactive to it all. So I appreciate you going to the meetings that are part of the county. I imagine that's a lot of information at once.
Yeah, the first couple they're a bit slow moving because it was all trying to get organized. The last couple I mostly watched, and last week was the final meeting. So Thursday night, 10:30 or so, I was kind of wrapping that up. And don't get me wrong, it's really good information and it's a good discussion, but there's a lot of posturing happening.
I imagine.
So, once you get past that and get to the bones of the issue, that's when it starts to get good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't envy any Lincoln County commissioners between that and the prison thing, and I would hate to be on that.
I'll make sure we have an agenda item on this for the next meeting with a 1 or 2 page summary for what the commission or what the task force recommended and what the process is for them going forward, as well as maybe a brief legal analysis. But we might have to go into executive session for that. So.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That would be great. Anything else?
Move we adjourn?
Second?
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Who's second?
Oh, Thursday night football.
It's gonna be a snoozer tonight.